I feel bad for the teenagers today because they don't cruise. I don't understand. It's a habit. It was a function that was so fun. We would go to the Dairy Queen and turn around and head through town till we got to the A&W. Turned around and went back. We could cruise all night long on 75 cents worth of gas. That tells you how old I am, doesn't it? Some of you remember that the cup holder that you had in your car sat next to you wearing a poodle skirt. I remember. Now we have cup holders. I liked it better when the cup holder sat right next to me. But with cruising, there was a couple things that we did. Well, first of all, we wanted to be seen. And there were some of us that had old beat-up cars, but it didn't matter. We still cruised. And then there were some of them that had brand new cars that they cruised in as well. I remember on one evening as we were cruising and we stopped in the middle of town and stopped the traffic going one direction and the other. There was 4 lanes right in the middle of town, and we just stopped and talking to the car next, just on the other side, going the opposite direction. Hey, what are you drinking? Well, the drink then was called a Green River. It was a carbonated drink that was just green, and I have no idea what was in it, but we drank them. We drank milkshakes. I have a Green River. Oh yeah, let me have a drink. We passed out the window, just being seen. And that was the thing of cruising, was just being seen. It didn't matter if you had an old beat up car or if you were driving a brand new one. And then every now and then as we were cruising, someone would say, my car is faster than your car. The Gatlin went down and we would head out across the way, and the county was really smart in their planning because every year they resurfaced a 1/4 of a mile outside of town. They knew we raced out there, and we would go out and we would race our cars. My car was so old nobody wanted to have my pink slip. And actually, I didn't want to have anybody else's pink slip because that just meant more insurance, and you know how it is. It was just fun to go out and cruise, just fun to go out and race. It was just fun to be seen. If you'll turn in your Bibles this morning to the book of Mark, the 12th chapter, and right in the middle of 2 passages that Jesus was having is a story that after we finish this morning, you're going to go, well, now I understand how the beginning dialogue fits in this morning's sermon. That's Mark 12. And we're going to start reading with verse 41. Just 3 little verses, tidbits. And it goes like this, if you found it, if you got your electronic device on and you're looking at the Bible verse, not playing a game. It goes like this. The New International Translation says, Jesus sat down near the collection box in the temple and watched as the crowds dropped their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all of the others who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their supplies, but this poor widow has given all that she has to live on. For years, and I say years because I remember hearing this story when I was in grade school. For years, I understood this passage to talk about the money. If you got a quarter, give it to God. If you got 2 quarters, give it to God. This is kind of the impression that I was getting from this story as a small boy. Whatever money you have, give it to God. He'll bless you for it. As a teenager, I looked at this text and wow, this is about the money. But if we had the bulletin in the bulletin today, if we had the title for this sermon this morning, it would be, "It's not about the money." It's not about the money. Not at all. Let's look at it again just for fun. Verse 41, Jesus said, "Down by the collection box." Well, if you would do your history and do some studying, you would find out that there was 12 collection boxes in the temple. And each box had a different reason why it was there. And one of the boxes by one of the gates was for the widow's offering. The widow's offering. Jesus is sitting beside the collection box. He's watching the crowds drop in their money. One of the things I like to do is I like to watch people. Watching people is fun. You go to a mall and you watch them. There's some that are just in a hurry to get someplace. Whatever it is, they've got a coupon and they've got to spend it. They got to turn it in. And then there are some people who, I call them salesmen or sales ladies, who actually should be someplace working, but their mind is not on their job, so they go to the mall and they leisurely walk around wasting time. So they can tell their boss when they get back to wherever it's at, "Oh, sales were slow today. I wasn't able to do anything." Their heart wasn't in it. You know what I mean? You've watched people at the mall. You've watched people at the park. Watching people. Jesus sat there and he watched the people drop their money into the collection boxes. One of the translations that I read, it said they threw their money in the collection box. Does that conjure anything up in your mind? As your imagination is working about this story here, one Bible says they dropped it in and another one says they threw it. Well, it'd be more impressive to walk by and throw your coins at the offering box, and maybe it's made out of brass or steel, or it's made out of something that made a lot of noise. So you heard clankety clank, clank, clank. Listen to that. That must have been $20 that they threw in there. Oh, did you hear that guy? He had a lot of money he threw into the collection box today. It was a show. They wanted to be seen at the collection box. Because it says many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. This is where it gets really interesting. One, she should not be dropping in her last 2 coins. Because God instructed them in the Old Testament to take care of the widows. Those that don't have someone to take care of them. We have widows in society today who have children. Hopefully they're good sons and daughters, and they say, "Mom, how's things going today? Can you use an extra 20? Well, I hope they step up and say, "Mom, how's things going today? Can you use an extra 200 or possibly 1,000? Yes. We have widows who have someone who does take care of them, hopefully. But God instructed them in the book of Deuteronomy to take care of the widows and the orphans. What a pair. But to take care of them. Now we're down here several years later, and they're in the temple and they're throwing their money in, or they're dropping their money into the offering plate or into the box. I know of churches today that don't pick up an offering. They have a box by the back door. And those churches are doing quite well. But I wonder, and I've never been to one, during the offering time or when they're walking out. If there are those that just walk by and they make sure that they are seen dropping their money in. But we have the interesting story here is that she's down to her last 2 pennies. Last 2 mites. Her last 2 coins. And she comes in and she puts them in the collection box. Imagine, if you will, with me, that here she is, a widow woman, not a little woman, a widow woman. And she came to the temple to give her offerings. I picture her dressed nicely. I think what she told herself that morning is, I've got to get up, get dressed up, and show up. That's all I've got to do. And all I've got is two coins, and I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to make a display of it. Picture, if you will, she's sliding in the side door. No one is watching her. No one is paying any attention to the widow woman. She has no one to take care of her. There's no son, there's no daughter, there's no one to provide for her. Back in these days, back in Jesus' time, if you were a widow and you didn't have a son to take care of you, you became a beggar. You had to do something to have food. You had to do something to pay the electricity or the oil in the kerosene lantern. You had to do something, and so you became a beggar. But there were those widows who had sons that could take care of them, and they were instructed to do so. I've told you many times that I came from a large family. There was 10 of us. There was only 3 girls. The rest were boys. If you do your math real quick, that's 7. And at one time, my dad said, we have it all wrong. There should never be anything as Social Security. It's when you boys get old enough to provide an earning that a certain amount of it comes to your parents. That you take care of us. It's not the government's responsibility. It's yours. And I go, wow, that's why he had 7 boys. It had nothing to do with he loved children. It was just, that Social Security, that payment that he would get if his system would work. We're picturing the widow coming in the side door. She's walking up to the collection plate, and she's quietly putting in her money. She got up, dressed up, and showed up. And she quietly does it. And as we read the text on down, Jesus calls his disciples and says, come on over here, guys. I got something I want to talk to you about. Apparently, they were off doing something else. Maybe they were trying to find a little boy with a sandwich where they could pawn him off the sandwich and make Jesus turn it into more than just one sandwich. We don't know what the disciples were doing at that time beforehand, but it says Jesus called them over. Guys, come on over here. I've got something I want to say. And this is what he says. I tell you the truth. This poor widow has given more than all of the others who are making the contributions. I find it interesting that both Mark and Luke, they record the story that says that Jesus says, I tell you the truth. Did he ever fib to him? He had to clarify. I tell you the truth. I sometimes question when people say, I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, the last statement out of your mouth, was that a lie? You know what I'm talking about. You do the same as I do. This poor woman has given more than the others. For they gave a tiny part of their supplies, but she, poor as she is, has given everything she had to live on. She's given it all. Jesus is saying to his disciples here, in this 3-text passage, he's telling them something more. But what we have to learn is what he's talking about is we have to go back to verse 40 of the same chapter, and it reads, "Yet they shamelessly cheat widows out of their property and then pretend to be pious by making long prayers in public. Because of this, they will be more severely punished." Jesus is telling his disciples more than, check this out. She gave all she had, and these guys are just giving a portion. He's telling his disciples that these guys are doing it for show, and they have stopped supporting the widows. These guys are thinking that they're all that and much, much more. These guys are doomed. Because of this, they will be more severely punished. Because of their show, because of their arrogance, because they thought just because I put in $20, actually I had $150 in my pocket, but I gave $20, and I feel good about it. And I dressed up this morning and I went to church, and man, do I look good. Jesus is saying here that these guys are going to be held more accountable than anybody else. This widow woman, she did everything that she could. She not only gave her all of her money, she got up and she came to church. She got up and came to the temple. She got up to come to worship. It wasn't for show. It was because of her love of her God that she did that. One day as we were cruising through town, we noticed that one of the town, well, he was older, he was bigger, he was stronger, talking to a police officer in the middle of town. The lights were on. Well, actually, back in those days, there was one light. It was on, rotating. And we go, I wonder what Jack is talking to the police officer about. We drove out to the A&W. We made the turn around, and we went back through town. We went out to the Dairy Queen. We turned around, and we went back, and Jack is still talking to the police officer. But as we drove by, Jack hauled off and punched the police officer. Wow. I don't know whatever happened to Jack. I don't even remember if he's back in school. But it was show, because he could do it. He was bigger than the police officer. He could do it. Do we sometimes worship God for the show? My neighbors know I go to church on Sabbath. My neighbors know I go to church on Saturday. My neighbors know when I leave and where I'm going. But, today I'd just soon stay home. I'd just soon maybe water the flowers. Oh, it's such a beautiful day. Maybe the thought is I should probably load up the boat and go to the lake. See how much gas I can burn up in a day. Maybe I should, you know which avenue I'm going down here? Because this text is talking about hypocrisy. We believe one standard, but yet we do another. We would never think that it would be right to steal something from our neighbor, but maybe it would be okay to take it from my brother. Maybe it might be all right for me to lie to my brother or my sister, where I would never lie to my neighbor. The guidelines are spelled out for us. You guys know the guidelines. You've all read them. I don't care if you grew up in a Sunday church, went to Sunday school, or if you went to Sabbath school. The guidelines have been presented to us forever and ever and ever because we're all that old. But do we keep the guidelines no matter what? Christianity, I was told, is defined like this. Christianity that's what you do when the door is closed and the drapes are pulled. Christianity is what you do in your home when nobody's looking. Jesus is saying here in this passage, and it's not about the money. It's about hypocrisy. How do you behave all the time? How do you conduct your business? How do you just the simple things. How do you react? There's always actions and reactions. How do you react? Does the world know that you are a Christian by your actions all the time? Or is it the world knows you're a Christian on Saturday because you are, what's it say here? They pretend to be pious. Boy, I'm going to go to church today and I'm going to make sure that my neighbors know I have my suit on and I've got my Bible under my arm. And I'm going to walk up and down the street maybe 3 times. I might even walk up to the mailbox cluster so that everybody else can see as well. But then during the week, I might just stab them in the back. Maybe gossip about them. Maybe just be mean. That's what Jesus is saying to his disciples here. This is about hypocrisy. You're told to take care of the widows, but you're not. In fact, you're going the other direction. You're making a big show of your religion. Just 3 short little verses with so much impact. And it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 8 or 80, it doesn't matter. I once knew a lady who was cantankerous. She was pretty close to being mean. But she says, I've lived all my life being sweet. I deserve to be like this. What a thought. Wow. We are being watched every day by the people we work with, by the other students in our school, by the people at the grocery store, by the people at the bank. One of my funnest things to do is to make sure that my change is correct at the checkout counter. And if it's not, I love to say, there is a mistake here. You gave me too much. And that does happen. The younger the cashier is, the less likely you're going to get the right change rack. Unless their computer or checkout register tells them exactly they've got to give them the right change. And I have a very bad habit, and you guys probably could guess this. I like to talk to people. And I like to talk to the people at the cashiers. And one day I had a cashier, and I was talking to her as she was counting back my offering, or my money and my change. And it was all wrong. Big time wrong. And I said, I'm sorry, but there's a problem with my change. It's not necessarily you overpaid me. There's a problem with my change. That gets their attention. But little did I know that just on the other side in the next checkout counter was her manager, who heard there's a problem with my change. Came over to figure this out. You gave me back the amount of money I should have paid you for the item. The item came to $18 and some cents. I gave her a $20 bill. She gave me back the change, $18 and some cents, and kept the change. Wow, that would have been in my favor, right? Well, that's not the right thing. Do you remember as a child there was a saying that went, finders keepers, losers weepers? Well, I thought that applied very well. One day as we were at the beach and we were playing, I found a wallet just a little bit below the sand. Wow. And there was money in it. That's a better wow. I don't care about his ID. That doesn't mean anything to me. The money. I like the money. And I was probably at that time maybe 6 years old. Maybe 7. And in my enthusiasm, I ran up to my dad and I said, Dad, I found this wallet. And check it out. It's got money in it. He took it from me. He says, we got to find the owner. And I wanted to say back to him, but you can't. You got to be respectful. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. No, the right thing to do is to find the owner. Because this money might have been his paycheck that he cashed before he came to the beach to spend the weekend with his family. We don't know how he lost his wallet. He might have been just sitting there watching his kids build sandcastles. We got to find the dad. We got to find the guy that owns this thing. Oh man, that's not right. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right? No, the right thing to do is find the guy. Oh, okay. And Dad says, and he might give you some money for finding his wallet. He just might be happy that, and he'll give you a reward. Oh, that's okay then. All right. I'm gonna do well. I'm gonna make money anyway. We didn't have to find the guy. The guy found us. Hey, did you guys happen to find a wallet? Yes, my son found it. What is your name? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Here's your wallet. The guy thanked us, put it in his pocket, and left. I didn't get a reward. But the right thing was to give it to the man. The right thing was to not expect a reward. It's always good to do the right thing. Dr. Hart lives in Loma Linda, and he made this comment, and I really like it. It says that a Christian will always do the right thing. Let me rephrase this, because that's not what he said. A Christian, hang on a second, I lost it. John, your Alzheimer's is rubbing off on me. Maybe I'll give it to you. Nope, I won't. I lost it. Wow. Maybe catch me during potluck and I'll have it for you. Nope, I don't have it. That's a sad note to land on, isn't it? Don't laugh. You're going to get there too someday. Just remember in your life the story of the widow. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's not about being seen. It's not about cruising down the highway and letting everybody know you're there. It's just about doing the right thing. And as we know, the destruction of the Jewish nation fell. Their hypocrisy caught up with them. Pray with me if you will. Father God, I want to thank you that we can worship with you. I want to thank you for the story that we have in the Bible about the widow, about stepping up, Father, about showing up and not being proud and boastful and not being arrogant and not just everything that she could have been with just her 2 small coins. I pray this morning, Father, that each one of us will want to worship you because of our love for you. I want to thank you, Father, for your son Jesus and for the gift that he has given us. I pray, Father, now that each one of us will want to be more like the widow. And thank you again for loving us, I pray. Amen.